Okay, we're going to begin with the learning sponsors. A year of learning, Martin Lippman and family, in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bat Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremiah, Sid Ben Zeb, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler, in memory of her father, Yahu Ben Yosef HaKohen. Those who were inspired by our Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Esther Malka Bat Meshulm Yisachar. Gail and Leslie Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinza Bat Yosef Chaim V'Chava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer V'Chana, Pesha Bat Shmuel Yitzchak Halevi V'Tzipora, Isra Ben Yoam Moshe HaKohen V'Chana. Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir, Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim, Marsha Brana, in memory of her husband, Harav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel, friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz, Mordechai Yudel Ben Baruch Leib HaKohen, friends and family of Siggy Bessler, Shalom Shraga Ben Dov. A month of learning by Charlie Gelfenstein, in memory of his father, Meir Ben Yaakov, by Reuven and Susan Podolsky, in memory of his mother, Fredel Bat Shraga Feivel, B. Pizer, in memory of her sister, Rivka Bat Avram Michal Halevi, Michael and Judith Poretsky, in memory of his brother, Avram Ben Gershon. Today is the 13th, 14th, so there is a single day. There is one day of learning by B. Worden, in memory of her mother-in-law, Fagel Bat Avraham. And Hashem is having Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Velti Yeshua Shem Atliyah, and Chol B'nai Yisrael of Good Benstein.
Okay, I will say. So we've been looking for drushes to explain the extra language in when it says Balashar Naki, that the owner of the ox is clean or exempt or whatever it is. We got to see what it is. So we had one proposition. We said he said he can't get benefit from the animal. Then we talked about he can't eat the meat. And we talked about another. But then we gave another possibility that it exempts him from paying half. The Tom from paying half of a kofar. Now, Rabbi Kiva, when Rabbi Eliezer said that, he said a kasha to him. He said, "Listen, you never have to be exempt from paying half kofar because since the Tom, where it's written, since the Tom has to be paid out of the body, from the very moment that it gores, it's by definition unpaid. It can't be paid. It can't be paid because the ox has to be killed. There's nothing to pay from. Let the guy say, "Here, bring me the ox." So therefore, Rabbi Kiva said there was no reason in the world for the Torah to teach me that you don't pay half kofar because it's understood. It's understood. It's self-evident that you don't pay half kofar for that ox. So Rabbi Eliezer we have two versions of the answer that Rabbi Eliezer gave. One is he said, no, I'm talking about a case where it was by admission of it was only in front of one witness, for example. Just want to read just to make sure I'm seeing it inside here, or where the owner is admitted. That was one answer he gave. So there, where the ox was not going to be killed, I wouldn't know automatically that you don't have to pay the half kofar, and the pasuk got to tell me. And then we had another brisa where what he answered him was that it was a case where the animal intended to kill intended to kill an animal and killed a man, or intended to kill a non-Jew and then killed a Jew, or intended to kill non-viable babies and it killed a viable person. So there, where all those cases where the ox is exempt again from stoning. So I would have thought there, since the body of the ox is available for payment, I think you have to pay half, and we don't do it. Okay, now. So the Gemara is a very interesting question. It leads to an incredibly important rule. I really can't tell you how important this next rule is for all of our learning, and I'll try and flesh it out. Hi, Amar Liberation. So the Gemara asks casually, which answer was first? He gave two different answers. Okay, so which one was the first answer? So the Gemara said, Rav Kahana mishmei de Rav Amar. Rav Kahana said, you know what? You know which answer he gave first? He says what? Miskavin. Okay, it must be the second answer was really the one he gave first. Okay, that what? When he said what, that it intended, let's say, to kill an animal and kill the man or the equivalent. Okay, that's the one he said first. That's the one he said first. The second answer that we saw is the one he said first. Rav Tavyomi, which made the Rav Amar. Rav Tavyomi, the name Rav says no. He says Mis Amis Amalei Bereisha. It's really a case where he killed where only one witness was there, or only by admission of the owner, where the ox is not going to be killed. Both the cases where the ox is not going to be killed. Now you have to this what looks like an innocent parable is extremely important. Rav Kahana says in the name of Rava, he says it was really what the case where he intended one and intended the animal, for example, did a man. That's the one he said first. Okay, now why is that? Mashal at science to show it can be compared to a person trapper, okay, who is pulling fish out of the sea. He sees a big fish, he throws the scoop in and pulls out the big one. Okay, so he says what? Mishkach Rabbi Beishokav. He sees big fish, he grabs the big fish. Okay, he takes them first. He has big and small. He first grabs the big fish, and then when he's done, Zutri Shakal, then he takes the small fish. So he's saying what? So he gave the better answer first, and this is what's very important. You know why? So he first answered the one, okay, that you can't be pushed off. Okay, that what? How come to tell me that you don't pay half kofer even where the ox is not going to be killed? Why? Because it intended, let's say, to kill an ox and not to kill a man, but it killed a man. And then it told the weaker answer, okay, that the pasuk was pattering from half a kofer where he killed, where the ox was we only know the ox killed because of the owners, okay, or through one witness. Why? Because those ones are okay. Here, for example, we could push it off by saying, listen, a person admits to a knas, if he holds it's a knas, if it's a fine, that it would be exempt. Or when we said what, that it was by one witness, okay, we could say it's obvious that you have to have two witnesses in order to take out money. He says, therefore, what? He says the first one was vulnerable to difficulties. He said the better answer first, and then later, and then gave the other answer. Then gave the other answer. Of Tibiyomi Mishmei Damav Amar Hamis Amar Liberation. He says no. It's the case. It was the second one. Pardon me. It was the where he killed by one witness or by virtue or by testimony of the owner. That's the one he said first. Why? Even I marshal aside to show dog manayam. Okay, mishkach zutre shako. What happens if a person only saw first small fish? Okay, he didn't see big fish. What does he do? He takes the small fish immediately. Why? Mishkach Rabbi, if later he finds a better fish, Rabbi, okay, Shadi Zuchi Mishkach Rabbi. Then he'll throw away the small ones and take the big one. Now, it looks like an argument here. It's not an argument about the theory. It's only an argument about what happened. In other words, did he know both answers or didn't he know both answers? If he knew both answers, then we're saying what? So if he knew both answers, so obviously what he gives the better answer first, okay, and then he gives the worst answer. You see everything, you take the big ones and then you take the small ones. But if you don't know both, if you first thought of what? If you first thought of the lesser answer, you give the lesser answer first. When you think of the better answer, you give it. Now, according to this, I'm trying to make a very important point. This is important for all learning, in my humble opinion. I've used this for the longest time. Everyone agrees that if I know all the answers, what do I give first? Always the better answer. And then, okay, now you'll ask me a question. Why would you, if you know a better answer, why would you give a worse answer? The answer is because you'll see that in life and in learning, not every answer solves everything. So sometimes we have a series of answers because this one will answer, but I have a problem. That'll solve that. You have a problem, that'll solve that. Now, often you'll see Tosfos, for example, Tosfos could have 7 times a solution in a Gemara. I'm gonna just take it down, just for example. So an answer. Why? Because each answer has some difficulty, and the later answer is better. But here's the main point: you'll see that always whatever's earlier is a better answer. As far as the actual sugya, it's a better answer. Why? What happens with the ensuing answers? They're better from a very pragmatic point of view. In other words, if you want to detail a person to death, the later answers will get it up. You know how in business sometimes the creative people they have an idea, and the accountant says no, it's not going to work. They call them bean counters in America. They want to make fun. All the creative people make fun of the accountants. They call them bean counters. Of course, it's the accountants who make sure that the business is actually make money, and the creative people don't. In Hollywood, the guy says, I have a great idea. Let's make a film about philosophy in a coffee house. It'll cost millions, but it'll be great art. The people in the studio, the accountants, they say, yeah, that'll be great art, and nobody's going to come and see it. Let's make crazy movies about monsters and superheroes. That'll make money. So forget about art. No, I'm just teasing. So what happens? What happens in a series of answers, both in the Gemara and the Tosfos, you see what happens. We give the better overall answers, in my humble opinion, to come first. Okay, but they come all the way cuts cover. If they know everything, the better answers come first. And then when you're pestering the person with every detail, we have to give answers that are less good in the overall, but pragmatically solve the problem. So you're sort of whittling them down a little by little. This is very important, particularly in Tosfos, to understand how the Tosfos works, in my humble opinion. It's a gigantic. This looks like an incidental. This looks incidental. This is not an incidental piece. This is a very, very important, very, very extremely important, in my humble opinion. Okay, Tanya Ida. Okay, now. So now, okay, we've had our possibilities. Now we want to continue making possible, generating answers to the question: why do we have to have the extra word Bal Hashar Nuki? Okay, what that the owner of the ox is clean or goes free? What does it mean? Okay, Tanya, if we learned another brisa, Bal Hashar Nuki. What does it mean that he's Nuki? Rabbi Yosef really says what? He says, that what, in a case where this ox is not going to have to pay for babies that were destroyed. Now, as you know, for example, here that if a man knocked a woman and he caused her to miscarry, he's going to have to pay. He's going to have to pay the loss in value of her losing the baby. So tell me what, when an ox did such a thing, the ox is exempt from paying. We're paying the Dmei Vadas. Now, really, we're talking about half the Dmei Vadas here, right? Because it's a tam ox, right? So he doesn't pay half of the devaluation of causing the woman to miscarry. Amar lo Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva says to him in the brisa, a powerful kasha. He says, "Hari Omer." He says, "What are you talking about?" You see what the pasuk said when the pasuk talked about paying for the devaluation of causing one to miscarry. It said anashim, when men are going to be fighting, etc., 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 and the woman doesn't die, he'll have to pay. It'll be assessed. They'll pay for the damages, by causing a miscarry. This is anashim v'lo shvarim. It's clear that the pasuk is saying what men have to pay. Human have for damages. It causes a woman to miscarry. You have to pay the devaluation. V'lo shvarim, but not oxen. If an ox causes a woman to miscarry, you don't have to pay the cost of her miscarrying. If you wonder how perverse the people were in Sodom, the Medrash says in Sodom, if a man caused a woman to miscarry, they would go to the court, and what would the court say? It could say, you know what? You did a terrible thing. You made that woman miscarry. You take her from the husband and take her home, and you send her back pregnant again like she was before. That was the people in Sodom. They were so disgusting. Yeah, we have to talk about it. That's the Medrash says about the people stuff. But I want to talk about, at the right time to talk about it. I'll tell you why. Because when you read the Midrashim, it sounds like a joke. The answer is they were not joking. For us, it sounds like a joke. They were serious. You have to see how perverse and perverted they were in their minds. That was just. You see, that was a crazy.
Sounds like Hamas.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay, good.
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Rikiva, he asked him a powerful kasha. What do you mean? The pasuk says humans pay for miscarriages and oxen don't. So why do I need the pasuk Bal Hashar Naki to say you don't have to pay the half devaluation of miscarrying? You don't. And I said, wow, Shopper Kamer Rikiva. Wow, Rikiva asked a knockout kasha. That's a powerful kasha that he asked to Rabbi Yosef Glili. How can Rabbi Yosef Glili possibly respond? He says, I'll tell you now, I can respond easily. Even so, even though it said men, you think men and not oxen, I need a pasuk to tell me that the ox that caused the woman to miscarry doesn't pay the half miscarriage. Why? Because I would have thought anashim below shvarim hadomim anashim, not men and not oxen, men and not oxen like men. Ma anashim muadim. What's a man? He's muad. Oh, humans are always forewarned. Shvarim muadim, also an oxen that are forewarned. Tam mechayev. But not forewarned oxen would have to pay. Therefore, what? Rachmana balashar naki. So I still need the pasuk by a tam to tell me a tam doesn't pay. The potter doesn't pay half. Now, look at this. Rabbah didn't live in the United States. This is Rabbah, actually. You have to read Rabbah here. Rabbah did not live in the United States. How do I know? You'll see. Look what he says. He says, what are you talking about? You have your priorities completely backwards. He says, Yitziva Ba'ara. He says, the citizens are going to be in the low place. Bigiora. And the immigrants, Bishmei Shemayim, they're up in the heavens. You treat the citizens like nobody, and you treat the immigrants like they're the best. You put them up in the hotel. He didn't live in America. That's what they do in America. It's the opposite. Here, the citizens they forget about. They put the immigrants in the hotel. He says, your priorities are backwards. What would happen if he lived here? He said, but anyway, there's no such a thing. He says, so what you can't say with this, and what's the point? I didn't spell out the joke. What's the joke? He says, you told me what? It's saying what? Who has to pay for miscarriage? Men and oxen like men. What? That's a muad. Oh, but a non-muad ox would have to pay. When on earth was a tam more severe than what? Than a muad? Always the law is what a tam pays half damages and a muad pays full. You can't say, well, a muad doesn't pay and a tam does pay. That's backwards. It makes no sense. You have your priorities backwards. Okay, so I'm a rabbi. So I was to say no. He says I'm going to give you. So therefore, he says I'm a rabbi. We have to say rabbi here. A rabbi says I'll give you I'll give you. I'll tell you how he answers. This is how he answers. I would have thought anashim below shvarim avdam anashim. The same way we started before. You would have thought what men pay for miscarriages and not oxen like men. Okay, just like men pay for miscarriages who are forewarned. Afshvarim muad, which also the ones that don't pay are what? Are oxen that are muad. The kavachomer latami diptiri. Now it's and what it's all the more so. If muad, which is like a man, is forewarned, doesn't pay for what? For miscarriages. It's a kavachomer, the time of diptiri. So certainly a tam, which is less severe, what is less severe or more lenient, okay, doesn't pay. Therefore, since I would think that a tam doesn't pay, pardon me, I would think that they're exempt. Harder because of Rahman, and be careful about Lashon Naki to teach me what? It's not teaching me now that the Tom is not. It's by inference. The Tom is not okay. Tom Potter Umur Chai, but the Umur has to pay. It's the other way. You would have thought that the Umur doesn't have to pay. Thought the Umur doesn't have to pay. However, you thought that the Muad doesn't have to pay. So it tells me no, the Tom doesn't have to pay, but the Muad does. So it was really a way of telling me the Muad has to pay. Amalei Abaya. Somebody says, one second. He says, Elamiato, according to that, so if that's true, the same way you learned, if you tell me that Balashar Naki tells me what? That only the Tom is exempt, but not the Muad. There's other places where we're gonna have the same thing. It says that where it also says men, and I'm gonna do the same trick. By men, yes, by oxen, no, but by Tom, no, only by Tom, no, but by regular oxen, yes. But men, yes, oxen, no, only an ox that's a Tom, but a Muad ox, yes. Then you're gonna have the same. You have the same function. If you did that defense, we're gonna have the same thing by Boshas. Okay, Nemanami Achi. You say by Boshas also what? We've always learned that an ox doesn't pay Boshas. Ox doesn't pay any of the four things. Besides what? Besides the evaluation. And this limit will work by all the other four things. So according to this, we know only a Shar Tom doesn't pay the four things, but a Shar Muad pays. And we never heard such a thing. Okay, and he says what? Okay, you should say what? The same thing. We should say the same thing. What? For example, the pasuk says here. He says the woman comes and she, in order to save her husband, she stretches out her hand. She takes hold of the man's privates. Okay, and therefore it says men anashim. You think what? Men who embarrass people have to pay, but not oxen. Anashim below shvarim. Okay, men and not oxen. Adomin anashim, but only what? Not oxen are like men. So what? Which men have to pay damage? Which oxen don't pay damage? The ones that are like the men that are forewarned. Then I said, what? All the more so if forewarned ones don't pay, certainly innocent oxen don't pay. Because one of Baal Sharlucky is different. The Torah said by the Tom what? That specifically the Tom Potter, specifically the Tom, Umuad Chayev and the Umuad Chayev. And then you're gonna have to say now, 1 second. Everything we assumed, all these pages in Baba Kama till now, that no ox pays for the four things. No, all oxen pay for the four things as long as they're not a Tom. If they're Muad, yes. The Chite Machinami, you say, okay, so what? Okay, so let's say that's the truth. That's what Rabbi Yosef Glili holds. He holds against what we thought. And that's right. Only a Tom is exempt from the four things, and a Muad has to pay it. It can't be. If that was true, listening about Lashon Naki, then we should learn that from that extra pasuk, the Bryce should say, Yosef Glili says, Vlados. Okay, Umi Boshis. He said he's exempt from what? From paying for the miscarriages and for paying for embarrassment and really for everything, for all the four. Okay, so we're stuck with that. We can't. So we're still busy trying to explain how on earth are we going to defend Rav Yosef Glili from Rabbi Akiva's powerful kasha. Okay, from his powerful kasha. It said men and not oxen. So why would I need a pasuk to tell me that the Tom ox is exempt from half miscarriage? I don't need it. I know it's automatic. And that's the reason why we kept saying Rabbah before, because here we see Rabbah gives a different answer. So that's what we didn't want to say before it was Rabbah. Abaye Rabbi Dam Rabbayu, Abaye and Rabbah, who both say the same thing. Here's how Rabbi Yosef Glili defends himself. He says, Anashim. Now we got to be careful. This is really a little complicated. Okay, he says Anashim. He says, remember the pasuk says when there's no death. Okay, then they're going to pay for the miscarriage. Now, why when there's death don't they pay for the miscarriage? Because the famous rule, kamle b'derab mineh. If they kill the woman, they're not. If a person incurs at the same moment a financial obligation together with the death penalty, he doesn't pay. So if he killed the woman and caused a miscarriage, he's not going to pay for the miscarriage. Why? Because he killed the woman. When does he pay for the miscarriage? Only when he didn't kill the woman. Okay, well, otherwise he's going to have to pay for the loss of the babies. For the loss of the babies, for the death of the babies. So he said, "What anashim ain asan isha." It's only by men that when the woman stays alive, then they have to. By men, if the woman's alive, they have to pay for the miscarriages. Yes, ashim beisha lo yanshu. But what if the woman is dead? Okay, they're not going to have to pay. Why? Because it's because of they're going to have it come later the Rav Mineh. Okay, below shvarim, but by oxen it's not true. The afal gav the yesh asan yanshu. Even if the woman died, they're still going to have to pay the miscarriage. That's what I would think. Since I would have thought that, what? Only no, it's an exemption. Only when men, what's men excluding? Not men are obligated and oxen are not. No, men are exempt when the woman dies, and oxen are not. Even when the ox kills the person, you have to pay for the miscarriage because of Rahmana Baal Sharnaki, and therefore what? So therefore Hadar because of Rahmana Baal Sharnaki. So the pasuk got to come along and say the extra pasuk that what? That if that no, that also that what? That also the ox that when the woman if when it kills a person, it's also still exempt. It's still exempt from the babies. Yeah, from the miscarriage. Yes.
Yeah. So what they're really telling you that all pregnant women should stay clear of oxen.
That's true. That's for sure true.
That's a lot of bull.
Okay. Now. So we just made a whole thing. Now this is going to be a radical position. In the past, we have learned that the idea of kamle b'derab mineh is even theoretical. No, it's not only when a person actually receives the death penalty are they exempt from the monetary payment, but we've said even when theoretically they could have incurred a death penalty, but they didn't for all kinds of reasons. It was a mistake, this, that, all kinds of things. They'll still be exempt. That's what we've been saying up until now. But this position is not going to say that. This position is going to say no. Only when the death penalty is actually incurred is a person exempt from the monetary payment. But if it was only theoretically possible, but they don't get it, then they're not exempt. So Maskif Lord Balabavi said you can't answer that way for Rabbi Yosef Lili. Atu ba'asan tal yimilza. Is it really always dependent on whether the woman dies or not? Okay, when the woman doesn't die, the men don't pay, but the oxen do have to pay. That you would think such a thing. He says, really everything depends on intention. What do you mean to say? What happened over here? Okay, he says the men are only exempt, okay, when they killed the woman intentionally, not like we've been learning till now. Yeah, okay. But if they were trying to kill one another and they killed the woman by mistake, okay, where they're not obligated to be killed, okay, they do have to pay. And the idea of asan, ironically, this is very strange. When it said if there'll be a death, it wasn't talking about like we thought till now, the death of the woman. It means the other way. If one guy tried to kill his friend, that he killed his friend, and also then he's exempt on the monetary payment. But if he tried to kill his friend and he killed the woman, he still has to pay. Why? Because he wasn't trying to kill her. He wasn't obligated for her. And we're not saying that since theoretically he could have been, he's exempt. So he has to pay. And therefore what? So therefore what? From this pasuk alone, what happened over here? From this pasuk alone, I could have learned what? That you don't pay it. Why? Because I could say what? He said when it says that they have to pay, he says it's even where the woman died, they have to pay. So you have to say what? Even when the woman died, they have to pay. Okay, and what they have to pay? And oxen don't have to pay. So you see what? Now we're stuck with that pasuk alone. I can learn what? I can learn what? That an ox that kills a person doesn't have to pay for the miscarriage. Okay, so we're stuck. We're still stuck trying to. How do we defend Rabbi Yosef Glili? He says, I'll explain to you. This is why. Because he believes that it's coming to explain. Okay, why? Because the pasuk, we could have read the pasuk differently. The pasuk by the woman, when it says the men are fighting with each other, it says we could have said what? Anashim, when did kinis kavnu zelazeh, when the men were trying to kill each other and not trying to kill the woman, afagav sheish asum beisha, even though the woman got killed, yeyanshu, they're going to be punished. They're going to have to pay. Why? Why? Because they weren't trying to kill her. Okay, they weren't trying to kill her. Kinas kavli shatzma, but what? But if they tried to kill the woman and killed her, loyanshu, then they're not going to pay. So therefore, we're still going to learn what? We're still learning what? That okay, by men only when they try, only when they're exempt when they try to kill each other, but when they try to kill her, they have to pay below shvarim. But by oxen, it's not true. Now, feeling is kavli isha atzma yanshu. Even when the ox tried the other way, a man when he tried to kill the woman is not exempt, but the ox, men but not oxen, but oxen even when they try to kill the woman, yeah, sure they're going to be punished and they're going to have to pay the miscarriage. It's different inference because Rahman Abal Shanaki, therefore the Torah had to write what that the owner is exempt. The theory that what no that even though you would have thought that an ox even when it kills a man has to pay, comes to tell me no he doesn't have to pay. Yata Rav Chagai Midoroma. Rav Chagai came from the south. Okay. Atab Isi Maslisim Biyadeh came and he brought a brisa. I want Kavasi the Rav Ada Rabbi, and the brisa taught me exactly the way Rav Ada Abba taught us. Okay, now so we finally defended. Now we're up to a new chapter in this saga. We're looking at we've up till now we've talked about not getting benefit from the not getting benefit from the animal that's going to be killed. We talked about not paying half kofar. We talked about not paying for the at least the half money for the miscarriage. Now we have a new one. We never heard what is it. Rabbi Akiva himself, who was played a bit part up till now. Now he's going to take the lead role, and he's going to be the one to tell us what that pasuk was for. He says, "What Tanya Idach? I learned another brisa. Vala Shornaki, what the owner of the ox is exempt. Okay, we're going to say Rabbi Akiva Omer Naki. Okay, midmei evet. He doesn't have to pay the 30 pieces of silver. You know that when a person's ox kills the when a person's ox kills the slave, okay, yeah, let me read. Slave, he has to pay 30. Let me read you the pasuk. I happen to have it here. Im eved yiga hashor o ama. If the ox gores a slave or a maidservant, kesef shloshim shkolim yitain ladona. The price of 30 shkolim he shall give to his master. Bashar yisakel, okay, and the ox will have to be stoned. Now that's written by. That's coming right after the idea of a warned ox, because it just said just before the imshon agachu, etc. If it was a goring ox, okay, and therefore what? And therefore when okay, it's teaching me what that by a tom, if it gored the ox, so when do you have to pay for what the 30 when it's only a muad? But if it's a tom, the tom doesn't have to pay since it comes right there. The tom doesn't have to pay the 30 for killing the Evan. Okay, that's what Ricky will learn. So the part of mid man. Okay, new point. Okay, yeah. Remember what we're going to see. Remember, Rabbi Kiva holds you always pay full. We're going to see in a minute. Rabbi Kiva holds even a tom. Right. Even a tom when tom. Oh, the tom only pays. We're going to see in a minute. Rabbi Kiva holds only when a tom pays half damages only for damages. But once only for that. Pardon me. Rabbi Kiva holds that there's only half damages for damaging property. But there's no half damage for damaging men. Damaging men, you always pay full. So we'll see. It's no difference for that. It's all the same. Now we'll see that. We're going to see it in a minute. But I should have mentioned it. You're right. The name Rabbi Kiva Nafshe. Now, one second. How can Rabbi Kiva say what he said? He should give his and take the same medicine that he tried to give to Rabbi Eliezer. What did he claim before? Eliezer said, "What you don't have to pay? You don't have to pay half kofar." He said, "Who on earth would you take to pay half kofar for?" He said, "The tom has to be killed. There's nothing to pay from. It's obvious. I don't need a pasuk to tell me enough to pay half kofar. I know it. Yeah, everybody knows you don't pay." Rabbi Kiva, why do you need a pasuk to tell me what that you're not going to pay for the Evan? I know you're not going to pay for the Evan because the tom always pays from what? Pays from the body. There's nothing to pay from. Let him ask himself the same kasha. He says, "Wait, what do you mean?" Let him ask himself the same kasha. He asked to Rabbi Eliezer, "Lo atzmo." Okay, he said. He says, "Isn't the ox itself amish talam gufo? The ox can only be paid what the ox is only paid from the body of the ox." He let him say the same thing. Bring it to basin and pay. The ox has to be killed. There's nothing there to pay from. Goodbye, Charlie. Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak said, "You know what? No, slow down." Rabbi Kiva has an answer to that. He says, "Now this is not what we learned before. This is when the owner came and shechted it. Not like we learned yesterday. He shechted it after the judgment. He shechted it before. This guy was really smart. The second he knew something happened, he went and shechted it now. There was no basin that the side has to be killed. This ox doesn't have to be killed. He shechted it quickly. He's hungry, this guy. He's hungry. He wants to feed his family. He's wants trouble. Shech the ox. Quickly, shech the ox. Shech the ox. He sends the kids out to shech the ox. My first wife's mother, of blessed memory, she knew the laws of shechita by heart. by heart. And I was young. I was in my 20s, and I stood there with the Chachmas Adam. I didn't know the laws. I stood with Chachmas Adam, reading the Chachmas Adam from behind my back. I would say, "What happens if this and this?" Oh no, that's kosher. So what if? Oh no, that's no good. What happened? Our father didn't trust the shochet. They lived in Munkach. You know, Munkach was father. No, he wouldn't trust the shochet. He sent his daughter to watch the check up on the shochet. She knew she knew the laws. I'm telling you, I took that. I didn't know myself. I was taken from the Chachma Sadar. I said, "What happens about this?" Oh, that's okay. Oh no, that's not okay. She knew everything. She knew everything.
Did she do anything herself?
Huh?
Did she do anything herself?
No.
She was a minkach.
Munkach, yeah.
You remind me of
Yeah. Huh?
Your purpose slaughterhouse?
No. Nope. But she knew the laws. That I can tell you. She knew. I didn't know. She knew. Anyway, so over here, what? This guy's a smart guy. This guy's a smart guy. He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "I'm gonna feed the family." He says, "Listen, I'll shech the ox." The first whiff of trouble. So there was no based in the kid. This is not a dead ox. When he shechted it, that means kosher. This means kosher meat. Yeah, this means kosher. It's not neveis. This means kosher. He didn't shech the gona. I'm Rav Shmuel Bar Yitzchak kasher. So now what? The guy shechted it before there was a judgment. Now you think what? There is a body of ox. Hey, there's a bunch of valuable meat here. Let's eat it. Let's pay out of the meat. He says, what? So you think to pay kamashmalan? No. Even therefore, you need the pasuk balasharanaki hoel uvaktalahu. What? Since it has to be killed, even so, even though he shechted it before, it still doesn't matter. Even though at the first set, even though what you're right, even though why? Because we're saying from the moment of the goring, it was already a dead ox. Okay, we're really saying therefore what, and therefore what you think, yeah. So therefore what, even though it has to be killed, tell me what that you don't pay. There was kosher meat there, so to speak. Now 1 second. Now, what's the problem over here? The problem is 1 second. Remember I told you about Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz yesterday? Remember I told you about Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz? So when he was a little, I told you he was a genius when he was a kid. It was a prodigy. He's in Cheder. So in Europe, they taught reading like this. They taught reading always. They taught the vowel and the kudah, and then they taught the whole alphabet. So let's say they were in komats. Okay. Oh, so they sing like this. Kometz aleph oh, kometz beis bo, kometz gimel go, kometz daled do. They would go through the whole alphabet with the komets. Then they learn pasach, hadach pasach beis ba. They learn through the whole thing. No, they're learning tzerei with the Rebbe, and the kids are learning how to read, alphabet. Then there's a tzerei aleph a, tzerei beis bay. So when they got to pay, a kid raises his head. He says, "Rebbe, I have a kasha." He says, "You have a kasha on the alphabet?" He says, "Yes." He says, "What's your kasha?" He says, "Rebbe, why is it tzerei pay? Also, without the tzeri, it's a pay." The Rebbe says, "Wow, what a beautiful kasha! What a good kasha!" He walks up and he gives him a kiss on his kepi. He gives him a kiss on his head. What a good kasha! Then he walks over to little Yonasan and he gives him a patch. Yonasan says, "Why'd you patch me?" He says, "How come you didn't have such a good kasha?" So Rabbi Yonasan is very upset. He doesn't like this. He walks over to the kid who just got a kiss and he gives him a patch. The kid says, "What are you patching me for?" He says, "How come you didn't ask by hay?" What do you wait till pay for? Why you ask by hay already?
He's a paid tzaddik.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're here. So 1 second. Now, if Rabbi Akiva, if you could answer this, if Rabbi Akiva could answer, you're so smart. Rabbi Akiva could answer this question. You did such a good job. He says, "Yochi, Lezer." Okay, he says what? He says, okay. Then what? Why is Rabbi Akiva asking him a kasha that he answered? He could have given the same answer that he asked Rabbi Lezer. It's worthless. He should have said that. He should have what? Should assume what? That the kashkadim shachto. So Rabbi Akiva should have answered his own kasha himself on Rabbi Lezer. If he answered the kasha, he answered for himself by saying what? By saying that the guy shechted it before the basin made a psak. So why didn't he understand this? Why did he ask the kasha to realize he should have answered the same answer? Umar says, "You're right." Hachinami says, "You're right." He knew that answer, but he wanted to see what he could do. Maybe he's got a better answer. He knew he could have answered for him, but he wants to see maybe he got a better answer. Like he says, maybe he's going to have a better answer, and he's going to tell him a better answer. He's looking for ammunition himself. Aye. Rabbi Lezer, Nami Nishle. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so I understand why Rabbi Akiva didn't reveal the answer to him. He says, but why didn't Rabbi Lezer think of this answer? Okay, Shekanda B'Shachta. Why didn't he answer? Instead of answering the answers that he answered, what? It was one witness. So it was LP it was according to the owner. It was where it tended to gore an animal and then it gored a man. Yeah, why don't you answer simply? It's where the owner. Why don't you keep it simply? It's where the owner shechted it before there was a court case. Okay. So the answer is what? Because Relez would have said to you no. He says not true. Hassam, he says, when I told you the second case, like I told you, for example, that he intended to kill an animal, killed a man. Who did his carbon the Ragos of Adam? He intended to kill somebody, to kill the animal, kill the man. The shore, la baktolo who clow, what? The ox, okay, is not going to be killed. Why? The salka the when is it what? Okay, I mean in the chayev, I would have thought that what since the animal is really not going to be killed. Because you can't kill it because it never intended to kill the man. So then I would think that you have to pay. That has to pay what the half kofar. It's the Cholamute, the Tusk has to come and tell me no. But in this case that Rabbi Kiva is proposing, to be Karabak Talahabi, really what? This animal has to be killed. This is they intended to kill the man. It's supposed to kill. It just so happened that the guy shechted it before, but the animal's supposed to be killed. Okay, I don't need a pasuk to tell me what that he doesn't have to pay, even though that he doesn't have to pay, even though he shechted. Okay, I don't need it. I don't need to. Well, I don't need a pasuk. I don't. No. It's the other way because he's saying it's clear. It's clear. I don't need anything to tell him. He's exempt. He's exempt. Why? Because the animal never was supposed to be killed. It didn't intend to kill the man. Pardon me. Because I'm sorry. One second. I said it wrong. Okay. The svara is what.
It did intend to kill the man. And it's chayav meat.
No, this thing in the case where the guy shechted it, the animal is supposed to be killed. Okay, the animal is supposed to be killed, and therefore what? And therefore what? There's really nothing to pay from. I don't need a pasuk since the animal is supposed to be killed. There's nothing to pay from, and I don't need a pasuk to tell me that since he shechted it, etc., etc. Because why? Because since the animal is going to be killed, there's nothing to pay from. He's obviously exempt from half of kofar. He doesn't buy this Kanech, because since the animal is supposed to be killed, it's obvious that the guy doesn't have to pay. They have kofar, there's nothing to pay from. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Kiva Nami. So 1 second. So then how can Rabbi Kiva give this answer? Since really what the animal is supposed to be killed, one way or another, there's nothing to pay from. Okay, so why would you need a pasuk to tell me he doesn't have to pay? It's obviously that he doesn't have to pay. Rabbi Kiva says you're right. It's really true. Really, that it's obvious that he doesn't have to pay, and even if he shechted it, he doesn't have to pay, even though there's meat there, because the animal has to be killed. The fact that he shechted it, the meat has value. Whatever you're going to say, it doesn't matter. It's clear he doesn't have to pay. He says, I'll tell you what Rabbi Kiva would have answered. He says, I'll tell you what the real reason. I heard this from a great rabbi. Who was the great rabbi? It was Rabbi Chanina. He says what? He says, and he explained what Rabbi Kiva really meant. How come Rabbi Kiva is not vulnerable to the same kasha that he has to Eliezer and say, what? Listen, the animal can't be paid for. The animal has to be killed. There's nothing to pay out of, and therefore it's obvious that what? It's obvious that he doesn't have to pay for the price for the payment for the slave. Okay, so the answer is what? Because now remember I mentioned this to you before. Remember, Rabbi Kiva has a unique system. He believes that this law of Tom only applies to damages to money, but damages to a man, even a Tom pays full damages. The animal broke the guy's arm, it's to pay full damages, not half damages. So he says what? Here's the wise Rabbi Kiva is unique. He has a different answer. I would have thought, hold on, Rabbi Kiva, since Rabbi Kiva said, the extra word there is because it's a special case. The ox goes the man goes there. Because the main point is what? Rabbi Kiva holds, but to make it to cut to the chase, Rabbi Kiva holds what? That only when did the Torah pay half damages? When an ox scores an ox. When an ox scores a man, even a tom ox pays full damages. So I would have thought, since he holds the same way that he holds that a tom that gored a man has to pay full damages, I would think also that he pays from the estate and not from the body. Just like Rabbi Kiva holds that tom pays full damages to a man, he also pays what? Lo min aguf, but min aliyah. So since it's min aliyah, it's not obvious what? It's not obvious that baby what? Because he has to pay from the estate, not from the ox. So there's what to pay for. He owes the money from his general estate. Okay? Therefore, what? So he's not vulnerable to the kasha that he asked to Rabbi Eliezer, who holds what? All the world holds that a tom ox pays half damages even by a man. But for himself, since the tom ox doesn't pay half damages, it pays whole, and he even has to pay from the estate. He's not. It's not true that since the ox has to be killed, there's nothing to pay from because he has to pay from the estate anyway. He has to pay minalia. Okay, that's why the Torah could Kiva had to write what that he's exempt, even though he has to pay for the estate. Even if he say he's exempt. Amarle Rav Zera Ravasi. He says 1 second. He says that's not true what you said. But Rabbi Akiva lessened his punch. His punch was not as strong as you said. You're right. He came out and said a novel point that a tom ox pays full damages to what when it damages a man. But he never said to such a degree that he pays from the estate. That strong. He didn't punch that hard. His fist wasn't that strong. He lessened his fist. The Tanya, because we learn Kiva Omer, even though I said what that an ox that gores him has to pay full damages, you think he has to pay from the estate? Talmud Lower, the pasuk says no. It has to have the same rule, the same way as a normal tom. It has to pay what from the body and not menalia. So you're finished again. Your answer is no good. Even Rabbi Akiva, what you said is not true. Even Rabbi Akiva, who says that a short tom pays full damages when it gores a man, it still pays from the body. So if I have the same kasha to Rabbi Akiva, I have to realize it. What do you mean? There's no body to pay from. Obviously, you don't have to pay. Why do I need a pasuk to tell me that he doesn't have to pay? That he doesn't have to pay the price of the Evid. Of course, he doesn't have to pay. There's nothing there to pay from. Oh, my rabbi says, don't worry. I'll answer for Rabbi Akiva. I can still do it. He says, it's derech. He says, we still need the pasuk according to Rabbi Akiva. So I would have thought like this. And it's beautiful. And since we see the Torah was more strict in paying for a slave than paying for a man. Why is that? What do you mean? Why should ben chorim? Because when it comes to when the ox kills a free man and you have to pay kofar, okay, you have a seller, no same seller. If he's worth a seller, you pay 1 seller. Shloshim, he's worth 30 sellers. Shloshim, you pay 30 sellers. Whatever he's worth, you pay him. You don't pay any more than he's worth. The Eved, but when it came to an Eved, you have a seller, let's say Shloshim. The Eved's only worth $1, you pay him 30. So you see, the Torah is much stricter by a slave than by a man. Okay, so therefore I would think still that what? I would think that what Mishtalim Nami to be Eved Min Aliyah. I would think when it comes to paying a slave, even though I should only have to pay from the body, but by killing a man, I would pay from killing a man, damaging a man, I pay from the body. But a slave I pay what? From the estate. Therefore, since I thought you paid from the estate, and there is what to pay for, and you really would have to pay, but now we're winning. Therefore, the podcast Rahman, so he had to say, nope, he's exempt. Kabbalah says 1 second, and lovely. Tiny Kavasi the Rabba, and we learned actually a brisa that is just like Rabba defended Rabbi Akiva. Now, hold your hat on. The brisa is going to give two reasons, that you don't need a pasuk. First, but watch out. It's going to be first 2 reasons why you don't need a pasuk. Then it's going to show me why you do need a pasuk, and it's exactly the reasoning that Rabba gave for Rabbi Akiva why you do need a pasuk. First 2 reasons why you don't. Tani Kabasi the Rabba. We learned the following brisa. Baal Ashar Naki. What's this pasuk coming to teach me that the Baal Ashar doesn't have to pay? Rabbi Akiva Naki Midmei. He's free. Doesn't have to pay the price of the Evid. The Gemara said, no, 1 second. Why? Why do I need that pasuk? I don't need a pasuk. I know it anyway. Why? Well, Dinu. First, I can learn it by what? By mematzino, by comparison. Okay, the Torah makes a man pay for his ox killing a slave, and makes him pay for a man for ox killing a man. Okay, but you see what? When it came to a free man, okay, just like by a free man, you made a difference between a tom and a muad. What? That the muad pays kofar and the tam doesn't. Also by an eved, you'll make a difference between tam and muad, and therefore what? It's clear that only a muad pays for what? For the slave, the 30, and a tam doesn't. Okay, well, that's one reason why I don't need any pasuk to tell me what that the tam doesn't pay the 30 of an eved. In other words, kavachomer, I can even learn from a kavachomer. Uma ben chorin. When it comes to a free man, shenosing kol shivyo, by a ben chorin, you have to pay the whole value. It's strict. Halak the bein tam the muad. Still, you said what? You made a distinction, and the tam doesn't pay kofar, and the muad does. Okay. Sheina nosin ala shloshim. Oh, pardon me. Okay. But now Eved. So if by the chomer one, okay, we have to pay the full damage. We still were lenient, and by the Chamor case, by the severe case of killing a free man, we still are lenient on a Tom. By killing a slave, where we're lenient, okay, and he only has to pay 30, even if he's worth 1,000. And all the more so, what you should be lenient. You make a difference between Tom and Wood and be lenient on the Tom. So I don't need a pasuk to tell me what he doesn't have to pay. Mar says, "Lo, it's not true. Why? Since the Torah forced us to be more severe by an Eved than by a free man, why the other way? By a free man, if he's worth $1, you pay $1. 30, you pay 30. The Eved, but by an Eved, I feel Yafasela, even if he's only worth $1, you have to pay 30. So therefore, you would think what? Therefore, you think what? That he has to pay? Talmud Lomar, the pasuk tell me no. Balashar that he's exempt. Naki mid me'evid to me'evid, and we'll call that a daf. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
That's a big daf. That's a big daf.
What do we do with the bike? Oh, you don't have to buy.
I didn't bring it because my wife took it because it's raining. Thank you.
I'm going to tell you a story that you can tell your wife.
What do you want, Mike?
My Makich family was from his grandfather, not sure if the father, but certainly the grandfather was a shochet.
Really? That's funny.
Okay, now
Oh, they put it last night.
that gives you a little background where I got the story from. I got it from my mom, who got it from his father, who was he was the only bacher in the yeshiva allowed to daven with the minhag.
Oh, really?
Because otherwise